So there's a lot that has been going on today. It was quite a busy day in the world of our lives, I guess, as human beings in general. Based started off with the drama at the Oscars this morning, that news breaking, and then obviously straight into a Proteas press conference, and then now you're talking to you guys. I mean, about everything that we can talk about with regards to the news that has taken place today. So we will be covering everything. We'll particularly be talking about Dean Elgar's press conference. I'll be going over some of the major points that I thought stood out in this particular press conference and bringing you guys the information, and then we'll get into it and discuss it a little bit more in depth, because it's important that we go through some of the things that were said here. Some good things were said, some interesting things were said, some things that I would maybe need myself and a teacher to chat about and unravel maybe on the show, and maybe I can get some insights from him and his understanding of it, and then listen to you guys and see what you guys have to say in the comment section too, to see what you guys think about the comments that were made. Now, the the pre-match press conference is on the channel. You can go and watch it later if you want to have a look at what was said from the Dean Elgar point of view. But we're going to be covering everything that we thought was important in the press conference, and we'll be bringing that information to you guys, and then having a listen to what you guys have to say in the live chat too. But if you're new to this channel and it's the first time that you're here, please subscribe to the channel. Please click that notification bell for all future videos. And don't also to forget to smash that like button. That's how you help us get into recommended feed. So please go ahead and smash that like button as many times as you can, as many people as available, because you can only smash it once. But please smash that like button and share it to all your friends and family and tell them to do the same. If you're also new to this channel, you'll know that we have a monthly magazine. Now, we will be launching this tomorrow, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. It will be a nice time to bring it out, because it gives us a nice amount of time for you guys to digest everything before the test series starts. So go ahead, download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine Monthly. The link is on the screen as well as in the description, so go ahead and do so. It's 100% free, including all back issues, guys. So please go ahead and help us by doing so. We also have a Patron account where you guys can get involved in. So please get involved with the Patron account. It really helps us take things to next levels, and it helps us improve for you guys. So please go ahead and become a patron today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description too. And cricketfanaticsmag.com. Don't forget to go there for all updates. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight into today's video. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid Mohidin. This is my co-host, Aditya. And today we'll be discussing Dean Elgar's press conference and bringing out the main points that we thought maybe stood out, and trying to maybe unravel it and talk about it a little bit more in depth. Read into it a little. Some things we'll probably read into a little bit more in depth than what was given to us, because there are some things that maybe stood out to me, and maybe my interpretation will be different to you guys and different to maybe Aditya's. So I would like to maybe see if I may be reading into things too much. But the day started off with massive news with regards to the Oscars. I just wanted to bring it up because it has gone completely viral on social media. And I was like just looking how the story has developed, with Will Smith smacking Chris Rock on stage, which was some people are saying it's fake. Some people are saying that it's real. There's a blend of everything, and a lot of people don't know what is going on, because nobody's really spoken about it after it's happened. We've seen a different response from women than men when it comes to this particular topic, like we have with so many topics when it comes to, even when we're talking about women's cricket, men's cricket as well. There's a lot of comparisons that are on the line that there are debates about, and this story is unraveling some debates with regards to things like that too. Whether it was right, whether it was wrong, who was right, who was wrong, whether he should have shown his anger in that manner or done it in another manner. there's loads of people doing talking different things. So I just wanted to just say that I am aware of what's happening in the world, guys. We're not only in the cricket barrow, we are aware of what's happening in the world as well. So interesting to see what happens with that story as well. But then the big story and the big thing happened, and that was Dean Elgar's press conference. Now, there were a lot of things that Dean Elgar had to say in this presser. Now, first and foremost, I knew that the topic was going to be brought up again, and that is the IPL players. It had to be asked because it was a follow up from a previous presser. So it had to be asked. Um, Dean Elgar answered it, but I feel that the answers that he gave were pretty diplomatic because he doesn't necessarily want to rub anybody the wrong way. What we need to know, and what was important to know, and what Dean Elgar did well in communicating with us, is the only thing that mattered is that he had a conversation with the players. And that was the most important thing for me. It wasn't a thing like, oh no, they just left and we never had a conversation. We'll talk about it when they come back, sort of thing, which we've seen South Africans or people in the South African setup do quite a bit. You know, we've delayed important things of topics of discussion that need to be sorted out. This was a good thing from Dean that he sorted it out and spoke to those players and tried to get. He had, according to him, he had individual conversations with players and got to understand each and individual's reason for wanting to go. Now, I'm going to pick up some of the points when it comes to that topic because I want to get that topic out of the way before we go into more the series itself. One thing he said was we have to make do with the next best in the country. So that's obviously the next guys that are in line. He had convos with them or conversations with them, and he's comfortable with the answers that was given to him for the reasons why they've decided to play the IPL. He also said that he hopes that. No, sorry, that's not that. He also said there are a lot of players that are new into the competition, that have newly gotten IPL contracts, and they don't want to hurt their chances of playing in the IPL going forward. He mentioned that, and that is something that Aditya, that I have to give him credit for, because he mentioned that in our argument when we spoke about or debated. I wouldn't say argument, more of a debate, friendly debate about the IPL and where we stand with players leaving. So, by Dean saying that, that means that it must have been a factor, and it proves Aditya's point to be correct. That you do, you can spoil your chances of a future contract if you do something that is out of the ordinary, for example, pulling out of a test series. You also mentioned that he's not so sure about what the non-disclosure agreements are when it comes to players and the IPL and the BCCI, and what those agreements are and what they're allowed to talk about, what they're not, and what they're allowed to do and what they're not. So he says he doesn't really know much about that. He's not very much educated to give his opinion on that. But the important thing is that he's had the conversation with those players and they've given him reasons that he has accepted, and they're going to move on and they're going to focus on the series. So let's just get that out of the way. Your thoughts, Aditya, on what he had to say about that, about especially about the loyalty test.
Look, like you said, it was encouraging to note that he did have conversations with the players, and certainly what I gathered from this press conference was that, a lot of the air around that controversy had been cleared. And I think we can call it controversy because, in previous shows we discussed that it blew up into something quite big, and it's something that I didn't understand here because obviously there is a bit of distance there with me being here in India and all of this going on in South Africa with respect to the IPL versus the Test series debate. And I'm pleased that things have calmed down a bit and that Dean Elgar said what he did about him being sort of comfortable with the positions that the IPL players had taken. Um, and I think he answered those questions in a manner uh, that was really mature, I thought.
Mm.
With respect to the NOCs um, and that sort of stuff, I think that is complicated, and I don't think that's been communicated by any country's board to the public. of the players. Like we haven't heard Cricket Australia, for example, talk about that arrangement with the IPL, or the ECB and its arrangement with the IPL. All we heard from the ECB back in, I think, 2014 was that players were encouraged to go to the IPL, um, but that's about it. So honestly, I don't feel like that's out of the ordinary from Cricket South Africa. Uh, but in saying that, it would be helpful to have just a little bit more clarity from them, because this is the second year in a row that such a situation has happened, and obviously none of the players need additional drama in future years and future series.
Mm. Yeah. So it is very important that he did mention that, and it's very important that he did clear the air on that. But there was a line regarding that maybe stood out to me a little bit more than maybe someone else, or maybe people didn't pick it up. I don't know if they did, but I don't know why. For some reason, it stood out to me. The wording of the way he said it stood out to me, because he could have said it in another way. He said they were put in a situation regarding their availability. He said they were put in that situation. So that stood out to me, because it comes across like Dean Elgar is protecting his players and saying that it could have been addressed with better, or it could have been addressed better or changed, or whatever the case may be, or something else. It could have been addressed in a different manner or in a better manner. And that particular line stood out to me, where he says they were put in a situation regarding their availability, which he felt was unfair that they were put in that situation. So, um, especially the newer guys were put in a difficult predicament, like the Marco Janssens, the Aiden Markrams, the Rassie van der Dussen, particularly those three, I would say, more than the others. Um, Especially with the fact that they're only in their second year or third year of the tournament. Second year of the tournament. I think all of them. Drassi never necessarily played in his first season at all, I think. So um, it's a interesting one. It was a debate that was sorted out, and I'm happy that Dean Elgar sorted that out.
That's a good observation, Colin. And to me, I think it points more towards the fact that Cricket South Africa didn't want to take a position there and upset the BCCI, because the recent success of India's tour to South Africa was massive, for both countries, and financially it was a success. A lot of people watched the series. There was a lot of interest in it, and if Cricket South Africa had made a statement, that would have upset the BCCI. And secondly, we need to take into consideration just how much of a role franchises play in the lives of these players. When Andrik Nokia has got a hip injury, the Delhi Capitals physio has flew into South Africa a while ago, Patrick Farhad, and he conducted an individual assessment of his own, which basically cleared Andrik Nokia to fly to India. So that can tell you how much of a role franchises play in their lives. You know, so
Yeah.
it's not entirely up to the player always.
Mm. Yeah, and we can see that there's a lot more involved with this than what we think. So yeah, they we'll see how this develops in the future and how it grows. Let's move on. The next point that I want to talk about is that what Dean had to say, because he was asked about the ODI series, and a lot of those guys that were involved, they're not available for the Test series, but they've moved on. And Dean, it was nice to hear Dean say this. Um, I don't know why for me, but it was. I think going into a Test series with this mentality is the right thing to do. I think he said he was hurt by the ODI series as well as the players, even though he didn't play in the series, and he hope it will fuel the players that are available right now a little bit more, to get back at Bangladesh and beat them, because he said that defeat really hurt them, as well as spectators that weren't playing necessarily in the match. So that was good to hear in my perspective. So they're not in the ODI setup, but they felt the pain of losing to Bangladesh regardless. So that was very good. That I think that was an important thing that he mentioned, specifically because I think that this almost caught up to this statement, almost caught up to the one that he made a little bit later when he was talking about the IPL, when he said that um, it's a chance for the new guys to put up their hands and put the players under pressure that are going away, that are not available. So this almost connects the two, because on the one hand, they're hurt by the defeat. They want to prove that South Africa are not as bad as they showed they were in the ODIs. And even though it's different formats, it would have still hurt them. So those 2 points I wanted to bring out, Aditya. It's good to hear Dean Elgar speak like this. I think it's good to know that he's involved, or that South Africa in general, cricket in South Africa in general, means a lot to him. Not only his discipline that he's in charge of.
Without a doubt, and he has to be clued in, right? Like he has to understand the emotion around the series. He's not living in a bubble, and technically he would understand that Bangladesh would have a certain degree of momentum coming um, into this test series. And obviously he also mentioned Bangladesh's coaching staff, which is pretty much South African. So he's aware. He knows what's going on. But what he also said was that it's going to fuel South Africa's test team to perform even better. And quite predictably, he also talked about not wanting to start slow this time around.
Yeah, and that's important, because I mean we've in all the time we start slow and then we come back. So it's. Do you want to add on to that, Aditya? Because that's something that we've been speaking about for quite some time on this channel. Maybe you can just flesh that out a little bit about what Elgar actually said about starting off slowly.
Yeah, he talked about the importance of getting that first test match right, because not playing that test match, that first test match to potential really puts pressure on the team to put in that much more energy in the second test match. Um, and that's never ideal, and historically, certainly for the last couple of years, South Africa has been starting series, on that losing note, which is far from ideal, because you can't really win a two-match series if you lose the first test match, as we saw in New Zealand. But he also acknowledged that traditionally South Africa gets better as the series goes on. But obviously that time is not there if the team is only playing a two-match series. So he did stress on the importance of the team starting off well.
Guys, get involved with the super chat if you want us to read out your questions. Obviously, we are basically engaged in a conversation over here, so I haven't really looked at on the side to see what you guys have to say. I will maybe try to look at it a little bit later. But get involved with the super chat if you want us to speak about that point that you raised before you flesh that sentence out, or that point out, Aditya, about the Dean Elgar mentioning that the staff are from South Africa, etc., and there's a lot of staff there in South Africa. He spoke about the Highveld too. They asked him about the Highveld, and surprisingly, I thought it was a very interesting question from Telford, the way he posed it, because I was under that impression too, a little bit, based on the previous performances, that we have kind of been doing better on slower wickets at late, wickets that are a little bit spinner friendly, than the faster wickets. We've actually looked a lot better, but Dean Elgar stood by his belief that he thinks that we play our best brand of cricket at the Highveld. Now, that might not have been the occasion if you're talking about Centurion recently, because I mean, on two, that's 3 matches that we across in different formats that we've lost at Centurion now. So I don't know, because we've seemed to. It does seem that they struggle. They've been struggling recently on the faster pitches, but the Highveld and the Highveld hasn't necessarily been looking the same like it did before. So that also, I think, does add a little bit of different spin to it, and that maybe is the reason why we haven't necessarily seen a similar type of dominance in the IFL as we have before from South
But I mean, technically, if you compare Durban's wicket from the 1990s to what it's now, in the
Africa.
in the 1990s, it was the fastest wicket in South
Yeah,
Africa,
yeah,
and today it's considered to be a slow spinning track,
yeah,
which is chalk and cheese. But
yeah. It's strange.
he also mentioned that um, South Africa haven't played a test in Durban in quite a while, so he
I
didn't
think it was
really know what
Australia.
to.
Australia was the last time, I think.
No, I think after that, those the Sri Lanka test match was
Sri
there in
Lanka, Sri Lanka was there.
Durban.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
interesting.
it's been quite a while, but at the same time, I don't want to say that South Africa have no home advantage, but that element of the unexpected is there for South Africa as well, because they don't know what to make of that surface. They have to go by what the domestic circuit uh, might have experienced. So
And he
that's
specifically
about
also
it.
said it's 2.5 days before the test, so they're going to have a look because they was asked if they're going to play two spinners, and he didn't answer that because he said the conditions are going to determine that. So it's important that we do know that. He also spoke about the standard of cricket across the world with all the test matches happening and tests happening around the world currently. And he said that there are a lot of more games going to 5 days recently, which is great to see for test cricket. And he said, but that's to do with the wickets. So basically, saying that the wickets are more batter friendly, actually, that's what he's actually trying to say around the world. So it's pushing the games a little bit further into the days, of course. We would like to see a 5 day. Obviously, Durban would like to see it too, and he thinks he said that he thinks that because there's a little bit more grass on this wicket, and he feels that a lot of work has been done at Kingsmead to prepare for this test series or this test match, sorry. And he really believes that probably that the ground staff and everybody involved with KZN cricket and Durban and Kingsmead want this test to go to 5 days because we don't get a lot of test cricket in Durban. So you want to take full advantage of it. So there has been a little bit of rain around, um, and the outfield and the field has been quite wet. But it's been 2 scorching days apparently, according to Dean. So hopefully that weather keeps going because you never know with Durban, it can rain out of nowhere. So there is a little bit of grass on the wicket. So maybe we might not get that low slowing track that we saw in the T20 challenge. Um, and perhaps we'll get. Oh, not the T20 challenge. Sorry, I'm talking absolute rubbish. That was in PE. So maybe we'll see more slow. Maybe we'll see the wickets that we've recently seen, um, which were a little bit more spinny friendly. As you can see, there's a lot more spinners coming out of Durban than ever before. So they have had quite a lot of success with spinners. So let's see what the wicket has to offer on the day, and then maybe we'll see two spinners, Simon Harmer and Keshav, play in that match, um, which I think is a high possibility. Okay, I think that's all the main topics. Anything else, Aditya, that you want to mention before I get to the last one, which is about the women's game? Is there anything else you want to just mention? Nothing. Oh, sorry, I didn't look at you, so I didn't see you shake your head.
No, not really, not really. But all in all, all the major talking points were covered in Dean's press conference. But yeah, probably time to talk about the women then.
Yeah, yeah. He mentioned something that he said, which I loved. Is the honesty in Dean, ruthlessly honest in a way, almost you could say, because he was very bold and confident in what he said. He said that over the last 2 to 3 years, they have set the benchmark for cricket in this country. And I thought that was fantastic for him to actually admit that, because it would have been very, very difficult for him to admit that. So, and I agree with him because the standard of cricket since I watched them in the World Cup and the ICC in the World Cup when they lost to England in the semi-final, they just continuously got better and better and better, and they continuously brought new players in, others left, news came in, and the transitional phase. And Hilton Moreng needs to get so much credit for this, because I think what he set up in this with this women's team, how he's kept the standards extremely high. I've been very impressed with him, with what he's done, the staff that he's brought in and that have come in and gone out, and for him to be so long in the job and keep so much consistency over so many years is phenomenal. So I think he needs to get a lot of credit for that. But I just have to appreciate that one line from Dean Elgar, and what he said, and he's obviously wished them very well, and he also said he was in contact with Dylan Dupree, who's on the coaching staff, ex teammate of his, and obviously an ex cricketer. You guys some of you might know him, and yeah, he's been in contact with them, giving them good messages. So that's good to hear that our test captain is very much involved with everything that's involved with South African cricket. Um, I loved to hear that. I really took note of all of those type of things, that he cares a lot more than what it may seem sometimes, because Dean is very straight to the point, and it's about the task at hand, and it's about now and what's happening, and he likes to focus on the next game and keep his focus and make sure that his team is focused. But I love the way he conducted himself in this press conference, and he made some excellent points over here across the board. But yeah, let's get into the live comments. Let's see what some of you guys had to say. Khalid, do you think Bangladesh have a better seamers than SA, and SA have better spinners than Bangladesh in the squad? Spin-friendly conditions should help SA. I really want to. I really want to say that we mustn't underestimate South Africa's pace attack. Those new guys that are coming in, because they are extreme. And from me knowing these players over a while and watching them in action and getting to know them from a personal perspective with regards to cricket interviews, etc., and watching them play, listening to what they have to say in interviews, these are very hungry cricketers that want to play for South Africa. And I think that's probably the most dangerous period for a bowler to come into this team. There's no pressure on them necessarily, because there's more than one that is coming into the side new. You are literally replacing more than one player over here from what the main team is. If it was one or two, I would have maybe said so, but it's three or four. So we have basically almost a whole new bowling attack. I think they need to look at the situation and take the pressure off themselves and just try to do their jobs and just continue doing, because they're coming off a very good domestic season, all of our bowlers that have been selected. So I just want them to take that momentum into this level, and I think they can really challenge the Bangladesh batters. Sorry, I really think they can, and they have the ability to do so. We just need them to execute their plans correctly, because I think execution has been South Africa's problem, and not the choice of game plans always. Sometimes it's majority of the times it's been the execution of their game plans. What's your thoughts, Aticha? Yes, Keshaf is brilliant, and yes, Simon is brilliant too. While we haven't seen him in international cricket in a long time, so we first have to see him play international again and see if he can keep the same standard that he's produced at the domestic level.
Look, I think South Africa's seamers are inexperienced at test level. Sorry, David Miller just hit a massive 6. Wow.
I wanted to watch his innings, actually.
Yeah, interesting point. 46 to win of 24. But South Africa's seamers are solid. Where they probably lose a little bit of that edge is the express pace that KG and Andre could provide. I think any subcontinent team, no matter how comfortable you are on a South African wicket, on a grassy South African wicket, it is hard to play. It is hard to play high quality pace, and I think that's probably what I'm going to be looking out for when the series starts. Does South Africa have better spinners than Bangladesh? Look, again, Keshav is brilliant, and he'll land the ball in that same spot over after over. We'll have to see if they employ a two spinner strategy, because we've always seen Keshav as the lone spinner in the team. So if they employ a two spinner strategy, it'll be interesting to see how they sort of strangle Bangladesh to take a
Mm.
few wickets. And I personally, I'd like to see Simon Hammer there as well, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will. I see a lot of people talking about Zondo in the comment section saying that he will most likely play. I won't be happy with that, to be fair. Um, I do believe at this point it's time that Ryan Rickleton gets an opportunity. He's been enough in the squad. And I think that they picked Zubair Hamza ahead of him previously. And there was a little bit of a stir, but I could kind of understand that a little bit. But with Zondo, and yes, we're gonna say it's the quota point of view, and people gonna say that it's because of that. But for me personally, I think Rickleton has performed extremely well, and I believe that he should get his chance in this team. It's gonna be difficult to maybe get a to get that equality within the batting setup. Because Zondo's the only player of color from a batter's perspective that hasn't played other than King and Peterson now, of course. Um, so it's gonna be make it a little bit difficult to balance it out that side. They can balance it out, however, at the bottom end. I think they've got enough players of color from a bowling perspective. Um, but if Zondo is going to make his debut, I will be a bit disappointed about it, but I will still support. So I wanna give you guys a little bit of a challenge, especially the guys that are supporting us as Cricket Fanatics Magazine on this channel. Um, and I know it's going to be very difficult because you're going to probably be fighting with yourself when it comes to this. But if we can please just support the players when they get selected, we can have these discussions before the games, and you can go ahead and say why you don't think players should be selected and you think they're not good enough or whatever. But at least once the player has been selected, I just want to ask our fan base, as at Cricket Fanatics Magazine, at least our fan base. I can't control the whole entire narrative of the whole world, but I can try and just work with you guys, or let you guys work with me on trying to change the narrative in South African cricket. Um, when a player gets selected, please don't go and call him quota and all of those things. Even if he is, even if you think that he is, or even if that is the case, or even then that's the truth, because they have not been asked to be selected. It is not the player's fault. Let's try and think of cricketing reasons for why players have been selected, um, beyond just the racial factor. Because I don't believe that poor performance, bad performance has anything to do with race. It's got to do with performances. People of all colors perform poorly and perform badly. So I'm not saying continue. I'm not telling you to if you don't believe in the stance, then don't support the stance and say no, it's incorrect. Um, but once a player has been supported, try to give the player as much support as possible. Go after the selectors if you don't agree with the selection. But I would like to rather see us criticize performances than using terms like quota players and stuff like that, which is a derogatory term in from to discriminate against players of color. So that's what I would like. I would like to move on from all of this and the talk of this, um, because I, I've gave my stance on this. I've already said that I think that the quota system or the quotas should be adjusted according to what we have available in domestic cricket and what is available. I think they need to be a little bit more flexible about it than they are. Um, and we need to prioritize make sure that we prioritize the standards of cricket that have been played in the country. So, yeah, I think we should just try and support everybody as much as we can when they do get selected, because ultimately you want your team to do as best as possible. And yes, you can go ahead and criticize. I mean, I haven't stood back and not criticized players when they perform poorly, but not, but I'm not using terms like quota or Because ultimately, what you are saying is, when you call someone a quota player, you are saying that they are not performing well enough because of the color of the skin. You are literally blaming the color of the skin for the bad performances. That's what you are doing when you are calling someone a quota player. That's exactly what you are doing. And I see Trevani saying, yeah, we need to speak the truth. We don't believe in quota. I'm black and I don't agree with quota nonsense. Are you South African? I would like to know if you're South African, because um, I'm not saying that I agree with the quota system or with quotas either. I'm not necessarily saying that right here, and that's not I'm not talking about. I'm not speaking about that right now, whether the quota system is right or wrong. Um, and I'm not going to speak about whether we should agree or not agree with it. What I'm trying to do is try to protect the players from the scrutiny that they get that's not in their control. And ultimately, I see the quota word as a discriminatory term. If you don't believe a player is good enough, and then say he's not good enough, but to blame it on his race is my issue with this whole quota situation. My problem with it is that it's very racially charged and racially motivated, and that's why I do not like it. And yes, it's used from we use it in South Africa because with racial, it's a racial thing, because quotas has got to do with um, being a player of color and giving players of colors opportunities at the highest level, and that's why it was put in place to rewrite the rounds of the past, and we can understand it from that point of view. But to use it as a derogatory term, that's what I would like to eliminate from us using it as a derogatory term. So if you don't think a player is good enough, then say he's not good enough and you don't think he should start, plain and simple. Leave it as that. I just don't want to hear, I just don't want us to be talking about quota, quota, quota entire time and using that word. Because to me personally, it's an insult. And being a player of color, I feel it as an insult. Um, Choosing players on merit, um, you, you again saying it like it's not happening. It is happening. Players are having played picked on merit. Keegan Peterson doesn't perform, he would have been called a quota player. I can guarantee you that. Around the people would have been calling him a quota player if he did not perform well. And unfortunately, that is the case in South Africa, that people get called this term, they get labeled with this term. There's an extra layer to that quota player term. There's an extra layer there that is derogatory, that is not cricket related. So that's all that I want. I want us to change that. We need to get to a stage where, yes, I agree. We need to get to a stage where we can start to pick players on merit and pick our best players no matter what. That is something that we need to build towards and we need to grow towards. And South Africa is nearly there. We're getting to that point where we are becoming. We're becoming a better team, and we're improving and we're getting better. Let's see. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this point. Let's see what some of you guys have to say on this. But I will be doing a show on the quota system sometime in the future where we will get a panel on and properly discuss this. And let's see if you guys understand what I'm saying, because a lot of you guys misinterpret completely what I say, and my intention of what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's see. I disagree with you 100%. So it's okay for white players to be okay. So Lorenzo, you're gonna irritate me when you say something like this, because I expect better from you when it comes to this. Please tell me when a racial term has been used for a white player that has not performed. That's what I would like to hear from you. When has a white player been called a derogatory, negative, racist term when he's performed poorly? I would like to know that from your side, if that's okay. And I'm getting irritated by it because white players are not treated the same as players of color. I'm sorry. You can say whatever you want, but white players have not been treated the same as players of color in this country. 100% haven't. And Aiden's been called Aiden's been very poor this season, and he's not been called racial or strong terms that are according to his race. Nobody said he's white and that's why he's playing badly. Nobody said that. But everybody's saying that Andile is black and that's why he's performing badly. Because that's ultimately what you're saying when you're saying that someone is a quota player. So yeah, I disagree with you 100% too, Lorenzo, because black players have been abused racially for performing poorly. So ultimately, I just want to say that smash the like button, please. If you agree or you disagree, doesn't really matter. Nobody's saying anything about Rabada and Gidi Kesh because in Rabada and Gidi and Keshaf and people have. Don't be fooled, people, because you are only working within your own little bubble. Because back in the day when Rabada and Gidi, when Gidi and Kish, when Gidi was selected initially, there was a little bit of an outrage from some fans that said he was a quota player, and then he took a 5-4 on his debut, and everybody shut the hell up about it. The same thing happened with Ruta Sapamla. Ruta Sapamla was called a quota player. Before that game, we took a 6 for. So we didn't hear the same backlash from Dwan Olivier. We didn't hear the same backlash from Andrik Nokia when Andrik Nokia was getting picked. We don't hear the same backlash against white players before they get picked. Almost every single player of color has been, almost every player of color has been called a quota player when they've been selected. Almost everyone. And I think that's a bit harsh on them because they understand the meaning behind it. They understand what it actually means to be called a quota player. Ask any person that is a player of color, a cricketer in this country that's a player of color, ask them if quota is a positive or negative term. And if they take it personally negatively or they take it in a positive manner, and then come back to me and we can have this conversation again. But at the moment, I haven't asked you guys to agree or disagree with it. If you disagree with it, by all means, I don't have an issue with people having an issue with things and disagreeing with me. I don't have an issue with that. I would just like to ask. I'm asking here for us to just treat our players a little bit better. When it comes to criticize them and be critical about them, but let's not cross the line when it comes to criticizing them. That's it. Let's continue with some of the things. I will make a show about the quota system. Yes, I will. Hardy, let's pick players on merit. This tag come quota won't exist. It will still exist. I can promise you that it will still exist in this country, because someone will still say, oh, yeah, but even though the quota system is gone, they're still using those mentalities. It's still gonna be this. We're still gonna have the same arguments. On merit, Rickleton should have played ahead of Hamza, and merit, Rickleton should have played ahead of Zondo, and that's fact. On merit, Rickleton should have played ahead of Hamza. I do agree with that. But there was a little bit of an issue with that one. There is a little bit of an issue with regards to that one, and he should have played ahead of Zondo. Perhaps he should have played ahead of Zondo too. And I did say that, and I haven't gone against it. Doesn't mean that Zondo is a quota player. Because we can it's just about the mentality. It doesn't mean that Zondo is a quota player just because he's being picked in the team. So he's being picked on the team. I don't like the term. I just don't like the term quota player. Let me put it to you that way. He's being picked because of if he's being picked because of the quota, because there's a quota in place and they're trying to get the words. I mean, no, that's the reason why they're being picked. It is. I don't like it. I don't necessarily like it. I really don't. And I think we need to work towards a way of trying to get ahead of that. But all I'm asking, even if you know that, if you know it's wrong, speak out and say that the quota system is wrong. But for you to continuously put that quota word and talk about the players as if they are that, and labeling them with that, labeling them with that term, it's the manner in which you use the term to label them. And you can't tell me that you have a positive or good intentions in calling a player a quota player. I don't know. I did try to step in here because I've been ranting a little bit about it.
Look, with selection, we can we can debate the merit as well, but at some stage we also have to talk about instinct, right? At some stage, for example, you look at Keegan Peterson. He didn't do well in his first series as a player. The fact that he got selected wasn't a product of his race, because there were people in that dressing room who believed in him, who who knew that he had the potential to make it big. So there were no racial factors that were taken into consideration in Keegan Peterson's selection. He was in the pipeline for a long time, and although he hadn't put on the scores, he was he had the talent to show for it, and he
Yeah.
did. So
Yeah.
you have to take into consideration that instinct, judgment, these things play a part in cricket.
Yeah. And people are again misunderstanding me. And I don't know how to say it more clearly. So I'm gonna try to speak a little bit slower and a little bit more clearly. Um, and it's gonna be in conjunction with this quote. Hardy, I call out every player no matter what the color. I don't see color. I get that. I fully understand that point of view, and respect your point of view. I am not asking you guys to agree with the quota system. I'm not asking you guys to agree with anything that we are speaking about. The only thing I'm asking for is to delete that quota player word from our vocabulary when we are criticizing players. That is all I'm asking for. Whether that's the reason or not, yes, that might be the reason, because they need to fit the quota, and that's why the player's been picked. But I feel that it's unfair on the player to use such a racially fused term to label them in a negative way. I'm going to say it again. I think it's wrong for you to use a racially motivated or racially fueled term to criticize a specific player or to label a specific player of color. And I've said it before, there are no racially driven or racially motivated terms used to discriminate white players. If there was, then perhaps I wouldn't be this upset. But ultimately, there's only a racially charged term used. And yes, it's at the own doing of CSA for creating a term like that in the first place. And they should take responsibility for doing that, because it wasn't fair on the players of color to have um, to receive that type of abuse when they perform poorly. That's all. Exactly. And that's why I said CSA. CSA should not use the term quota. But let's just be straight here. CSA haven't used the term quota. Players or captains and stuff haven't necessarily used the word quota when they refer to players. So I don't want to judge players on the okay. So this is a lot more complicated. That's why I said we need to do a show dedicated to this topic. And I don't know how it became a quota show now. Flipping now. It always becomes that towards the end. Let's see what KG has to say. What Khalid is basically saying is, whenever you criticize a player, do not use the word quota, because it is derogatory. Rather criticize based on performance and leave the color race out of the debate. Thank you very much, KG. I've been trying to say this for so long. Maybe you should become the host of the podcast. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you must agree with it. I'm like I said already, I disagree with it. Not completely, partially. I believe that the targets are necessary for us to increase the level of players of color that are coming through the system, giving them hope for the future. Because we need to rewrite the wrongs of the past. When the quota system was always in place, but it was 100% white first. Now it is not. It's it's only 50% or 40 odd percent white, but it was 100% white for years, which stopped which clogged the pipeline of players of color coming through the system, specifically players of color. People were stopped to play the sport because of the color of the skin. So now they've been giving opportunities because of the color of the skin. So it's reversed. Now we've come to a stage where there have been good players of color that are coming through the system naturally on merit. There are a lot coming through the system, but not enough to fill the quota. If you are going to talk about performance wise, because nobody's going to argue that KG, Lungi, Keshav, the Braze, KP, let me think of some. I'm trying to get some more players of color, deserve to be there in the team. And there are enough coming through to create a competitive unit. But I feel that those targets need to be adjusted according to what the reality is in our domestic system. If we are not producing players that are at the level, that are color, that are at the level that is ready for the international cricket, then don't put those players in the firing line to be criticized the way they are when they get selected, and not protect them from that criticism. Because CSA knows that they are what they are doing. They can't tell me that they don't know what is going to happen when they pick a certain player over another player. They know. So all I'm saying is just remove, like KG said, just remove that word when you criticize them. Just criticize them. Criticize them with normal words that you use to criticize a white player. When you guys criticized Aiden Markram, I mean, some of you criticized Aiden Markram. You use certain terms to criticize the players of color with that words too. There doesn't need to be a dedicated word for only players of color when they perform poorly. That's all. Okay. Let's move on. Honest players like Peklukayo, Zondo, or average players still they get picked. That's up why people target them as quota. It doesn't matter I don't care your reason for what the reason is. Like the reason is irrelevant to me on why they are saying it, why they are using it. It's like flip it out. In apartheid, people were told to call black people a certain term. Because they were told to be called that certain term doesn't mean it's right. Do you understand what I mean? So yeah, there are a lot of talented players of color, and they need to be identified, and they need to be nurtured, and they need to be grown, and they need to be put into the side when they're ready. It's also unfair to put players into a national setup and they're not ready. It's also wrong to force players into a setup if they're not ready for it. You could spoil someone's career completely. It's very difficult to come back from a career like that. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. And we don't know what the selection is yet. We don't know what the team is yet. So let's first wait and see what the team is, and we can go against it and say yes, we disagree. Like I said already. I mean, guys, I said it at the top of the show. I do not believe that Kai Zondo should be selected over Heinrich Hilton. In this case, I feel it's unfair. And every case, I'm going to look at it individually, and that's how I'm going to deal with it. I won't be using those words to discriminate against players. I will say they shit. I will say they crap. I will say they bad. I will say they poor. I will use many other terms to describe, but I won't use that term. And that's just me personally. And I would like it if you guys join me on that. But if you don't want to, that's your freedom of speech, your right to do so. I just had to get it out of my system, and let's move on from it now, guys. If I see it again, I won't mention it again. We'll just do another. We'll do a show to explain everything to everybody. Yeah, did you anything else you want to add?
Enjoy the cricket, people. Enjoy the cricket, support the team, and we're going to see a lot of young players, really put in some serious performances. So, enjoy it.
Yeah, and because I do see it in South Africa, there is definitely a bias towards white players. There is definitely a bias towards white players, because hardly ever do I see on Twitter. I'm not talking about you guys. You guys have been excellent support. You guys do your homework. You do your research, and I respect it. I know you guys are not racist. I'm not saying that you are. And I'm trying to protect you guys too. I'm not only saying it because it doesn't help me in any way or shape or form, whether you say it or not, just to be honest. I'm just trying to do a little bit of good on my side here. Um, so we must enjoy the cricket, like Aditya said. That's what we must do. But just to put it into context, I don't gain anything from mentioning this to you guys. And whether you say it or you don't say it doesn't affect me much, really. And yeah, I try to be as honest as possible. That's all I'm trying to do and give you my side of the story here. Because I know how it feels to be discriminated against my color. And even though I've come through privilege. And that's the shocking thing, is that I was privileged. I went to a really good school, not on a bursary. I went to a really good school. My parents paid to put me through school. I went to a very good school. I lived overseas for a couple of for a while. I'm extremely privileged, and I thank God for that, and I thank my parents for giving me the life that I have. And yet, with all that privilege, all that education, all that sacrifice that my parents gave me and my parents made for me to get an equal opportunity to another person that is of the opposite race, all the years of sacrifice that they did to get me through school, to get me through college, to get me a degree, to get me, so that I could get a job and work in this industry, and I still received that criticism and racial abuse. So, which is weird, because you're sitting there and you don't understand, and that's what changed my mindset about everything. Cricket, being in this cricket space, changed my mind about how I feel about race. Because before, I was a person that I was never exposed. You see, I was never exposed to racism as a kid. I was never exposed to that. I was always told to treat everybody equally, no matter what the color of the skin is. And I've always been told to never use my color as an excuse or as a reason to make an excuse for bad performance or make an excuse for doing something poorly or whatever the case may be. I never needed to use I should never use it as an excuse if that happens. And that's how I grew up until I came into the cricket space. And it opened up my eyes to the inequality that is happening in the sport in this country. It shocked me to death. And then on top of it, even though I've done all of that I can to not be put into a certain bracket, I still was discriminated against. So it's weird to see that happening. And unfortunately, the unconscious bias that we have is there. That unconscious bias against people of color is a worldwide problem. It's not only in South Africa. It's a worldwide problem that these things are happening. So yeah, unfortunately, it's always going to be a topic that's going to be discussed. But I think we should do a show on the quota system alone, and we can chat about the quota system and everything, and the difference between that and the transformation and all of those things. I think they need to erase that word, the quota, from a quota. They can change the word and do something else. I don't like it. It's disgusting. Anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell for all future videos, please. Please smash that like button. It's very important that you do so. Also, subscribe and download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. Also, become a patron today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Okay, let me just see what else you guys have to say here before I say bye to you guys. Morris is murdered play. That's why he gets picked in IPL for millions. Someone said that the Morris has better stats with a bat than Andile. Someone said that they have the same international stats earlier on, and I thought fly through. Racism is nonsense. Racism is nonsense and BS. But at the same time, people at the national cricket must be picked on merit. What do you mean racism is nonsense and bullshit? I don't understand what you mean by that. Please elaborate. Hardy transformation targets is good. Why CSA is leaving side in the ICC tournament? Yeah, so that's also quite strange. You see, I've got a lot of problems with CSA and the way they do things. Like, honestly, it's crazy. I have a lot of issues with the way they do things. Um, blame Proteas administration for bringing so that's why you need to understand, like you said, you're South African, but the fact that you don't understand the politics and why it was introduced in the first place is baffling to me, that you don't understand the history of the country to understand why it was needed. It was needed. It was definitely needed back in the day when they implemented it. It was definitely needed. That I'm not going to um that I 100% believe that it was needed. But I think as years have gone by and as we are producing more players of color that are of quality, the necessity of it, the reason it was put in place is so that we never had to put it in place again in the future. That was the reason why it was invented in the first place. So if the aim was never to eradicate it, then the aim should have never been to implement it in the first place. Yeah, anyway, let's end it here, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button and do all of those things. We'll see you again tomorrow with another daily show. Or yeah, we'll see you again tomorrow with another daily show. We'll probably do the preview for the test, for the first test and the test series. And then we'll see. My emotions are completely controlled, Devani. I'm completely relaxed. I'm upset because obviously it's going to affect me emotionally. Of course it is, because it has affected me directly. If you haven't maybe faced that or maybe experienced that, then I can't speak for you. But I'm not going to tailor myself down. This is my channel, ultimately, Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and I am the host of this particular show. So if I'm going to get emotional, that's just what you're going to have to deal with. If you don't like me getting emotional and getting like this about certain topics and talking emotionally about things, that's who I am as a person. I'm not going to change who I am as a person um, because someone doesn't like it. It's who I am. I'm not being disrespectful to anybody. I'm not being rude to anybody. I haven't discredited what you have said and your opinions. I said that I totally agree with your opinions, and I may not agree, but I totally understand your opinions, and you have the right to have your speech, and I haven't disrespected you at all. So I just expect that same respect from you guys. Hardy, you must get critical only on the SS electors, but the fans are innocent and don't get worked up on the fans. Um, you guys get worked up with we get worked up with each other all the time, though. Well, that's such a weird statement to make. Um,
But you
I
didn't
haven't
get
really
worked
got.
up.
I didn't really get worked up with you guys. I think.
Michael, Khaled's trying to implore that we should just get the word quota out of the equation, focus on performance. We're not referring to color at all. That's the crux of the argument. If you think Khaled was emotional today, maybe you should check out our little conversation. IPL versus country. I promise you, there was a lot more emotion there, brother.
Yeah. I'm a very let me put it out there. I'm a very emotional person. I've always been a very emotional person. Always as a kid. So yeah, but yeah, like I wasn't like I agree with you, Aditya. I'm not emotional at the moment. That's all I want to
And
say. Yeah.
that's fine. You're making an argument. You're expressing your point of view. That's okay. It's not like we there's a proper conversation, man. That's
Yeah.
that's fine.
No.
Not a big deal.
Okay. So guys, your responses are so like. How can I? What's the word I'm using? I need to think of the correct word. It's so
It's not dramatic or anything, dude. Like, take it easy, man.
yeah, like I mean, like I'm not telling you that you must or mustn't use it either. Like I'm not telling you what to do either. I'm asking. That's what I'm doing. Is just asking the question. But guys, anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you again tomorrow with a preview show of the test series. We'll try to get a panel on here. I've been struggling to get a full panel on here, but we will try to get it for tomorrow's show. Take care, everybody. And also, we're going to try to launch the magazine tomorrow. If not, then Wednesday definitely will be the last day that it will be the day that we publish. But most likely will be tomorrow. Thanks to everybody, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Love you all. Thanks a lot for the support, including you, everybody on here. Love you all. I don't see any of you guys as negative or whatever the case may be. I just wanted to make a point for future reference, asking for you guys to maybe support me on this journey. You don't have to. You can go on your own journey and do your own thing and call people left, right, and center, everything that you want to. I just this was just a request from my point of view. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you guys very soon. Thanks all for the support, guys. Cheers.